We're talking very unsexy but highly effective time management techniques. G'day, I'm Dante St. James, another Darwin Innovation Hub Lunch and Learn. Because of practical tools for people who like to stay on top of things and perform as well as they can when it comes to managing their time and getting work done. So what we're going to look at, is why these mostly unsexy things work, and knowing that not every one of them is going to be for you. So there's simple, no complex systems that we're going to be looking at. Repeatable systems that pretty much work every day. They're kind of boring. They're not really Instagram worthy. You're not going to post about them on TikTok. They're just little systems that are going to help you work that a bit better. And because you get some results from them straight away, the results then compound over time. So they're effective not just in one scenario, but in many others as well. You might take one of these and go, that's my jam. Or you might take one of the more unusual ones and go, yeah, maybe if I take a bit of that one with this one. It's kind of what I've done in my life, is to get my time management correct, is to manage to get everything from time blocking, which is very successful for me, but then needs to be flexible enough for me to be able to use some things where I need focus work to be able to do very specific things to get that focus work done. So we're going to start off with a very normal and very accepted techniques. You might have heard of some of these, and they're kind of like what people would kind of describe as very common sense techniques. Things like the to-do list. Now, when it's done properly, not the to-do list, which is kind of a suggestion. This is where you're actually doing the right thing with a to-do list. The way to do it properly is you don't have many things. And what we probably get overwhelmed with is when we've got a list that's like an A4 page that's just got 20 or 30 lists on it, one item for every line on that page. And this is where to-do lists don't work. So about 5 to 7 meaningful tasks at a maximum for a day, and describe not the actions you're going to take. I will check my mailbox. It's got to be something that an outcome. Will have checked 5 different emails. And don't copy things forward. Things don't get carried over. The idea of only doing 5 to 7 of them is you don't have to carry them over. So that whole big, long list that's going to go on forever, that doesn't work very well. And even in the office I'm working in right now, I've noticed those who have the shorter to-do lists tend to get more of those things done. They can tick them off as they're going, and it's really satisfying. But they also have to write a fresh list every day. So their gamified way of getting it done is to basically get my 5 tasks done today. It's going to leave me some fat at the end of the day to get done some extra stuff. So I'm not carrying things over. There's nothing more demoralizing than having so many things in your to-do list that pretty much 80% of them get kicked over to the next day. And they eventually, there's certain things that never get done. So the example would be, it'd be like, complete slides 1 to 10 of the presentation by 3 p.m., not work on presentation. It's going to be an actual outcome. Working on presentation, too vague, get specific about it. Most people misuse these. They tend to put, those very vague statements in it. Work on this, work on this, work on this, rather than get this specific thing done. Fewer tasks, very clear outcomes that are very measurable. And then you do a new list every day. That way you're not getting this heaving, horrible baggage coming over from one day into the next. The second one, which is the one I do this like in a grand way. Your calendar is basically a boss when you do time blocking. The idea is if it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. So people can't come, bombarding into your day. They can't become in like a wrecking ball to come and wreck your day, because it's got to be very much, you need to control it. Now I've got a very complex life, very complex business. So for me, someone barging in on my time really kind of messes up my day. It can really take me off track, and I don't get anything done. So the idea is that I've blocked out these times. Someone says, hey, can I just ask you something? I say, look, I've got 2 p.m. tomorrow, but I've actually completely blocked my entire calendar today. It helps people to learn a bit more about how to work with you, but also is very honest with them, saying, look, I have already prioritized a whole lot of this other stuff. In order to talk to you now, I need to reschedule something else. And they realize most of the time that what they were trying to ask you wasn't that important. They could have worked it out themselves. Or the thing they're asking you can wait until tomorrow when you've got that time at 2 p.m. What it does for me, because I do a lot of deep work where I have to actually focus in on something, like focused in on a meeting, focused in on some coding, focused in on building these workshops and planning, that I need to be able to sort of shut everything out and just do it. Now, I've got the beauty of sometimes working from home where I can do that. I've been sick the last 2 days, so I had a lot of at-home work that I was able to do. But that's not always the common thing when you're working in a shared environment. So to protect that deep work, you might have to do things like put headphones on, put in some music that helps you to think, or at least sound canceling that helps you to block out all the stuff around you and protect that deep work. But the important thing is it's a spot on your calendar. You can call it deep work, you can call it strategy. In my case, I have my learning, an hour of learning a day where I go and learn something new or work on something I am learning to do, whether it's like a course or a new skill, that it's already there. It's non-negotiable, can't move it. It's not flexible. It's not something to go, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that meeting instead. No, it has to wait. Now, there's always going to be something really, really important that comes by and will derail your day, but it can't be now. It can't be the thing you're in the middle of now, because that's disrespecting the person you're doing the work for now. It's got to be something that's later in the day. So in an hour's time, 2 hours time, 4 hours time, when you've got something which gives the other person that you're doing that work with some notice that they're being bumped, because no one likes being bumped. It feels really disrespectful. I don't like being bumped, but I also get that sometimes important things happen. Another area of your calendar for time blocking that I found is really good, and I used to work with a woman who did this so well, was reactive time. She used to schedule 2 hours of reactive time in her calendar every day, which is where she could react to email and react to crises, react to the bombarding things that come into their day. And if it's not meetings that are scheduled in your calendar, you can go, well, I need to react to this right now. Well, I've got 2 hours of my day dedicated to reacting. So I can just move this thing I'm doing now into the next non-reactive block, and I'll move my reactive block into this time. So then your calendar becomes a bit more flexible. A bit different when the thing you're meant to be doing right now is meeting with someone else. You may not be able to very quickly reschedule that, but you can say to the reactive thing, I'm going to be like half an hour and I'll come back to you on all of this. And that way you've moved the reactive time to something that's planned in half an hour's time. So you can get through the thing you're doing now. Particularly really handy if you find that you get out of deep work and it takes you a long time to get back into it. Being an ADHD kid, I tend to context shift very well. I can jump in and out of things, and still pick them up from where I came from and get back to work very quickly. Most people, though, are not that neuroflexible. So they will get into deep work. And if you derail their deep work, it really takes them away and can take them up to half an hour to get back into the pace which they were ripped out of. So bear that in mind, that your calendar blocking might not suit everybody, but you need to protect your time in order to get that work done. This could be the one you're doing. And particularly if you're working with clients, once you block it out, you're being booked out with someone, well, then you can't then get flexible. You've got to be there between 10 and 12 on Saturday. Well, then you have to be there between 10 and 12 on Saturday. So you then protect that. The other thing is too, someone says, oh, I had a conversation with you last week. You said you'd be available on Saturday. So are you still coming? It's like, well, no, because it's not in my calendar. You didn't actually book that with me. So when you start to talk like that, it makes things very accountable. So you're not just saying, oh, we had a conversation. It must be in the calendar. Like it says there, if it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. The 2 minute rule is an interesting one because I've tried this one and I'm very bad at estimating what's going to take me 2 minutes, because sometimes things that I think are going to take me 2 minutes take me an hour. How it works is if a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, you do that now. So it's not going to derail you completely. It's not going to wreck your day. If it's a quick reply to an email, it's about filing a document, about finding something and sending it off in an email, or if it's maybe cleaning your desk, it's going to take you 2 minutes. Well, then the idea is get that out of the way, because when you've got tons and tons of these small little 2 minute tasks, they accumulate and they create a lot of stress, because on a list, you got 20 of them, 30 of them that all need to be done. Whereas maybe 10 of them could be done really quickly. That less than 2 minutes doesn't mean 2 minutes. It could mean 30 seconds. An email response could take me 30 seconds. Going and ordering lunch could take me 30 seconds. So some things are very, very short. Cleaning my coffee cup, 30 seconds. So that kind of thing, when they accumulate up, you have this massive desk full of clutter. You have all these things coming at you all at once, and you never get that satisfying feeling of having cleared something off. You've always got this mental baggage coming with you. The impact is, yes, small tasks do create a very disproportionate stress, because they don't come as one small task, they come as 20, right? They accumulate. So clearing them up gets all that background anxiety and noise out, so you can get all that work done. This has not been a good one for me because I'm very bad at estimating time. So, and when I've made quotes for selling my time for things, I found I'm really bad at doing that. It's something I haven't, over 20 years, I've still struggled to get it right, and I still haven't got it right. So for me, that doesn't work so much as what the time blocking does. But this could be a really interesting one for you, particularly if you're someone who can't help but be bothered by the niggling thought of all those little things you're supposed to have done. I've got about 20 small tasks actually that I need to catch up on because I've had 2 days off, where I need to catch up on those tasks. A lot of them are in-person things, quickly answering an email, quickly getting back to someone, booking in some time, answering a LinkedIn message. So I've got a lot of those waiting for me, and I've actually allocated some reactive time directly after this webinar so I can get that done. The fourth technique is single tasking. This is where you do one thing at a time. So you work on one thing, one objective, one outcome at a time. You focus on one tab of your browser, which is for someone who's got 50 open like I do, going to be weird for me. But the idea is your brain pays a price and takes some energy for every time you have to task switch, which includes going from tab to tab to tab, or focus to focus to focus, or task to task. What it says basically is if you have 20 minutes of pure focus, that will outperform an hour of juggling. So in this case, some of the techniques called like Pomodoro, which is a technique where you set yourself 25 minutes every half an hour to work focused on. And then at the end of that 25 minutes, you get to be distracted. You got 5 minutes to be distracted before you go into a next focused 25 minutes. Again, I've tried that. I find it very, the forced ending of time, I find creates an artificial deadline, because I just get to the point where I'm on a roll and then I have to stop myself for no reason. But if you don't do that, then what happens, if you go above that 25 minutes into 35 minutes, you start to get really distracted and you start juggling and you start looking at things, and then you open YouTube and TikTok and you're off in a fantasy land of mess and it's all falling down on you. So I do understand how this works, but I tend to do the single tasking in those 1 hour blocks. I tend to find I can focus on something for about an hour before I start switching off to tabs. It's when, say, the internet's a bit slow or something's not coming out or something's not being delivered the way it should be. That's when I tend to get a few problems where I'm maybe getting that switching cost, where I go and distract myself. So maybe the 20 minutes or the 25 minutes, the Pomodoro technique of 25 minutes and then a forced 5 minute distraction time could be really good for you. In fact, I find it's really good at one point where I was having a trouble with standing up at my desk. I just had spent so much of my day sitting down in a seat that I never got up out of my table, away from my desk, to do anything. And that forced 25 minutes and then 5 minutes of distraction didn't necessarily mean I'm going to get distracted on the phone for 5 minutes. What it meant, it got me up, walking around, doing a lap at the office, make a coffee, get some water, go to the bathroom. I could use that 5 minutes for those kind of things. And that was one way I got to be doing it successfully. Number 5 is a weekly planning session. And this is where you review what happened last week. So 1/2 hour every week, just looking at how last week's stuff went and what didn't. And then you plan what your top priorities are for this next week. And then you pre-decide what you're going to be doing for that day. That's a little bit like what I do in my calendar, because often my calendar is booked 3 months in advance. So I've got slots all over the place. And then I'm able to review those through. Now, what it does mean is, because I get things booked, workshops and whatnot, very far ahead, I've also got to plan travel and family time and all those things very far in advance as well. So that sort of forward thinking, look at time as a system, and you go, well, I know what's coming up next week. I don't know everything that's coming up. I just know what's already planned. So I review, how did I do this last week? Because I had the same situation last week. What worked for me? And this is where you might need to jump between different kinds of time management. You might find that Pomodoro works really well last week, but may not work this week because you've got a lot of project work on, you've got a lot of planning work, you've got a lot of computer work, laptop time. But then you might find that time blocking is going to be helpful on weekends, when you find you tend to be booked out to people in big blocks of time. So you might need to take a little bit of one, a little bit of the other. I don't necessarily do the weekly planning session formally, but funnily enough, this tends to be something I do on a Sunday. Funnily enough, I'm planning my Monday on a Sunday, which people go, oh, that's terrible. You're thinking back into work. I'm like, well, work is my life. I can, it's my business. I can do what I want. But that 30 minutes I probably do on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, where I sort of get my head into what the week's looking like, and I go, okay, that's doable. I feel like I can do this. And what it usually does is that when I hit the ground running on Monday, I am running. I know exactly where I'm going. I know what I'm doing, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. I have to say, the morning that I wake up the most alive and the most enthusiastic is generally a Monday morning because I know what's ahead of me. There's not going to be too many things that pop up and derail me. So it's actually a really pleasant thing to wake up on a Monday morning. Now, they're the most normal things. Then there's the not normal things, unusual, but also still really effective techniques that might actually be a little bit more powerful ways to get things done and keep yourself on track. This is the stop doing list. Now, this one's interesting. I do insert this one sometimes, usually in line with the time blocking. So what it does, it is taking things off your list. So taking things away from your calendar. What I found back probably it would have been mid last year is I blocked out a certain time for lunch every day. The reality in my life and meetings and often being in different places is that's not going to work for me. So what I did, I actually took the lunch break out. And now I'm in a situation where I just don't take lunch breaks. I just eat at my desk all the time, which is also probably not the best way to go. So, what I'm trying to do now is introduce the lunch break again to give myself a bit of a brain break, to sit down somewhere else other than my desk and eat. Maybe go out in the mall. I work in a really lovely spot. I've got a park out the front of my office, a mall that I can wave to people as they walk by that I see and I recognize, and make it a really pleasant experience. Also, getting yourself out of a white walled office is also really good for your eyes. It's really good for your mental health. So that could be something you do. Now, there's also meetings and things that I used to attend out of habit. There was like a meeting for a committee that I was kind of on, but kind of not. I was invited to every week. It was an hour out of my week. And I looked at it and I went, I add no value to this. I don't even know why I'm in this. Why am I part of this meeting? So I just exited myself from that meeting. I just simply stopped. And there's quite often webinars, like a weekly webinar that I would go along to thinking, yes, I'm going to learn something really important from this. And I looked at it and went, that's another hour of my week that I'm going to pull out of my calendar to make some room available for it. So this might be part of that 30 minutes thing you do at the beginning of the week on maybe the Sunday. Look at what is in there that you can actually rip out. The things that you check reflexively. Like for me, if a notification comes up on email, I almost just have to look at it straight away. Same with SMS. So what I've had to do is then take away the notifications of my email and for periods of time during the day, actually shut down the email tab. All my email on web, they all get shut in tabs. Just shut down those tabs. If I don't want to be distracted by email, close my email. Just don't look at it. Don't have it there. And the same thing with Instagram was a bit of a problem on my phone. I find I just scroll Instagram, so I remove Instagram. So sometimes it's stop doing rather than adding things in. You're taking things away. So one of those things you could do is look each week and go, what are two low value things you do that could free up some time? For me, that was Instagram and email. I had to completely shut down email. I only answer email 3 times a day: morning, just after lunch, and just before I finish the day. Get them out of the way then so it doesn't derail me every other time. Now, the stop doing list is about tracking your time in a very short amount of time. So look at, honestly, over 3 days, how much of my time was wasted. And, even, have some kind of tracker on the computer or your phone that will actually tell you these things, how you're spending your time on those devices. Also look at what drains your energy. What are the things you're doing that really drains your energy and the things that you really think that uplift you? If there's a webinar that you go on to every few days that you find really, really informative and it's really adding to you, keep doing it. That's great. That gives you some kind of energy. But if there's some things you're doing that they can feel nothing but bad, like for instance, going on LinkedIn and seeing people, boasting about how amazing their lives are, simply stop. Just stop. Stop being part of that. Don't be part of it anymore. Just let it go. Be like Elsa, let it go. And then eliminate things from your calendar or at least delegate them. There's things that you get lumped with, which you just assume are part of your job, but never were. They just became it. So you can actually delegate those things on, particularly if it's your business. There's things that I was doing like bookkeeping on my own business, which was taking me 2 to 3 hours a week to do. So I was slow and clunky at it and didn't seem to be getting any better at it. And I looked at that and I said, well, at $250 an hour, that's going to cost me $750 a week. Okay. That's way less than the cost of an accountant or a bookkeeper, which would be about $300 to $400 a month. So spend that money to delegate it away, and I get back my high value time that I can then sell out. Another unusual technique is the artificial deadline. Now, this is one which I know a lot of other people have used really well. If the deadline is 2 weeks, what we tend to happen to do is that we will leave it all to the last 2 days and we'll use up that full 2 weeks. But if the deadline is a week, we'll tend to do the same. So what we do, we create these artificial deadlines. If it's due on Friday, we then get it due on Wednesday. That way we've got a bit of fat at the end, gives us a bit of a reassurance, but also it definitely gets it done on time. We're not necessarily rushing. If today is Monday and it's due on Friday, it's actually due for us on Wednesday, because I know damn well that those 2 extra days, we're going to get sidetracked. This constraint of your time, it keeps you clear and keeps you focused on those things. Now, this is a very good one for people who tend to be procrastinators. If you reduce the deadline, so if they tell you it's due in 2 weeks, you reduce it to 1 week, then what it does, it keeps you focused to get it done that week. Now, it's tricking your mind. Some people who are very logical and they'll look at it and go, yeah, but I'm just gaslighting myself. I'm not that stupid that I know that it's not actually another week I've got to go. This is more for people who have lots of things going on and they find that they tend to forget deadlines, like what the actual deadline would be. So they see it's due at the end of this week, they'll get it done by the end of this week, even though it's due at the end of next week. But they tend to forget the details, right? It's just in their calendar. This is when it's due. So maybe play that one if you're not someone who tends to be highly logical, or you're someone who's like people who are in the creative field, for instance. This works really well for you because you tend to be very, very short on the details, but very much on the purpose of what you're doing. So the purpose is to get this done rather than the details of when you got it to get it done. So if you reduce that time frame, it then keeps you focused in that moment to get that thing done. Now, why artificial deadlines work is because it reduces Parkinson's law, which says that, time will the time it takes to do something will expand into the time you're given to do something. So if you're given 2 weeks, you'll use 2 weeks. If you're given 3 months, you'll use 3 months. What it also helps is that you don't get super polished on what you're doing. You tend to reduce what is done rather than what is perfect, which is very good in this day and age where we're looking for productivity to come out, not necessarily the polish. It also forces you to prioritize stuff, that essential little 20% of stuff that's going to move your business forward. So the really, really important stuff that represents 80% of your revenue, but maybe 20% of your time, it forces you to do that. Because when time shrinks, you get really clear on the things that are the most important, the most highly prioritized, and things that actually matter and move your business forward. Because when you give yourself all the time in the world, it's like, when you're at university or in high school, you had a assignment due at the end of the month, and pretty much the night before, you're rushing to do it all because, you used all that time. Unusual technique 3, the boring first hour. I love the name of it. This is where you don't open emails, you don't open messages, you start with the most boring, hard, demanding thing first. Now, this doesn't work with me at all. I can't make this one work. I have to start with something I enjoy doing, simply because it then puts me into the right frame of mind to get the rest done. But for some people who are just never going to get to that thing they hate unless they force themselves to, this is for very, very, very disciplined people who have a lot of discipline, a lot of mind control. This will work for them. It will feel really weird at first, but what it does create momentum, and it protects your best mental energy on the task that needs it the most. So you start with the very hardest thing. For me, my best time of the day is the mornings, but before 12, before lunch. After lunch, it sort of starts to fade a little bit. So this would be a good one for me, except for the fact that I'm, again, ADHD. So for me, I need to do something I love first in order to get on to the rest of those things. And what I tend to do is do one thing I love, one thing I don't love, one thing I love, one thing I don't love, do it in sort of chop it up that way. So if I've got the ability to schedule in certain tasks for the day, generally how I do it, but start always with something I love. And then I'm rewarding myself for doing the hard thing by doing another thing I love. And that's sort of the little brain trick I play. The psychology behind this really is that willpower generally, most people, is highest in the morning when they've got a lot more energy and cognitively they're very awake. There's a lot of interruptions. Most mornings when I'm on track, I get in here about 7 a.m. or 7:30, and there's no one to sort of do distractions, so I'm able to do that focus. It builds a lot of self-trust when you get it right. But for those of us who can never get this right, it also builds a lot of failure and shame around it. So as I said, it doesn't work for me, but it can really work for others. Another one's constraint planning. So you only schedule 60% of your time. That leaves you 40% buffer space. This is kind of like in the time blocking where you have a 2 hour or 1 hour reactive time per day. You're only scheduling a certain amount of your day. And this is really important. I do actually do this as part of my time blocking. So I will not schedule my entire hours every hour of every day because I do need time for things to come up and for things to take longer than I think they will. Meetings to run over, people who arrive early and you don't want to keep them waiting. If you can plan 8 hours of work in an 8 hour day, you're a robot, right? No one can really do that. What we do, we don't work at 100% pace every single day as much as our employers may like us to do. What it does, it creates this spot that lets us have disruptions and has moments of, where we can rest and relax and have a bit of mental space, go for a walk, go outside, go and grab a coffee. It allows us to be able to power the other 60%. So if only scheduling 60%, that 40% is really important to power that 60%. So in that 60%, we are the most productive and the most, the best performing that we can be. But it takes a bit of our day in order to power that. So when you're all pulling this together, the kind of patterns you really should notice is making sure you get very defined outcomes in any of these ones, making sure you're very, very defined on what it is you want to achieve. What is a success for you? Remove a lot of the noise and the clutter, remove the things you shouldn't have to be doing, the things you don't have to be doing, the things that don't move you forward. Deliberately limit your options so that you don't have a lot of things. So for me, it's turning my phone upside down and turning notifications off. That removes that notification. And then removing my email tabs for certain times of the day so I don't get that interruption. So that way I'm constraining the number of things that are going to, come in and start taking over my day. I also don't answer my phone. Like there's only like two people I answer the phone to, the CEO of the Innovation Hub, and if he calls me, which is maybe once every 6 months, and my mum, and she never calls me. So the two people I answer the phone to, very, very few other people I'll answer the phone to. And even if they call, I wouldn't even know it because the phone is on do not disturb. So I don't get that until I see the message 2 hours later. I go, oh yeah, I can respond to that now because I'm in my reactive time. And then finding time and energy and the space you need to focus on single objectives, single tasks that you do need to get done. All these techniques really have that in common. Knowing what you want to achieve, getting rid of the clutter, constraining yourself, like making the options less. So I've got a very, very clear desk. When I've got a desk that's got lots of stuff on it, I find my eye wanders to that stuff. So I've got like a package over here that got delivered to me. Really, really need to do is I need to get that. I really want to open that package. I know what's in it. I still want to open it. So what I need to do is put that under my desk so that I don't get distracted by it. And then focusing in on those single things you want to get done, because it's not about doing more. It's about making sure your environment around you supports what you're wanting to do. So you get the right work done, but with a lot less friction and a lot less notifications and distractions around you. Because I don't know about you, but I can get pretty easily distracted. Now, people don't like doing these because they're not necessarily Instagrammable. They're not exciting. They do require a little bit of discipline. They do require a bit of planning, and the results aren't necessarily instant. But, you know, they do happen. They don't make great LinkedIn posts. They're not impressive to talk about at dinner parties. They're kind of boring, but they do compound over months, maybe not days, but months and years. You find that you've got a steady, quiet, sustainable lot of better productivity over time. So a little bit of investment that might seem like it's not really paying off right now can make a really big compounding difference over time. So what we probably do is choose one normal technique, choose one unusual one. So for me, time blocking and then the constraints, they're the two that I sort of smush together. Test them for a couple of weeks, see if they work. If they don't, test other ones. What you're looking for is not excitement. of doing something new, you need the effectiveness over time. And with kind of the way that our brain is wired to be giving us a dopamine hit for, things that excite us and are novel, that are fun, you may find that you need some gamification behind it. I've got an app called oh my god, Task Drop, it's called. So if you look it up, Task Drop, it's an app I created that basically rewards you and gives you points and a bit of a score on getting things done, and it gives you even like an on-screen reaction when you tick something off. So it gamifies this. So I use that in order to handle my regular tasks, even my home tasks, because it works on the idea that my brain wants to be dopamine, verified. I want to be validated for what I'm doing. So add those things if you find that that was really helpful. Sustainable productivity doesn't feel dramatic or fun. It usually feels really, really boring, but that's what we're looking for. Some area of boring that supports all the exciting things we do in life. I've got a bit of a learning guide on here for you. So if you want to scan that QR code or just go to that there below, learnclickstarter.com.au, time management, then you'll be able to get that and work through it. They've got a description about all those different time techniques we looked at, plus some tips on how to smush them together, all in a free guide that's now online at that address.